And you're taking some of the classes, right, Katie?
Yeah, just this one, the Inuit Art Studio. Mm-hmm. That's my one class for the semester.
And what do you guys do in that class?
Kind of like mini workshops. It's a 3-hour class every Saturday. Mm. And so Jerica's been inviting guest speakers to come. And like today we were making barrettes with seal skin and calf skin. Last class we did like a paint session, learning how to paint. What was the design? We didn't do whale's tails. We did ulu. An ulu. Mm-hmm. Cool. We did the whale's tails for the cultural hour the day before.
I'll just add on. So the art studio class, I'm listed as professor, but I'm not really teaching it. I invite guest speakers like Katie said. Like we had Kava come in, Jackie Niayuq. We're going to have Evelyn Donovan come and teach, the skill for cutting furs for Iḻisaġvik and Sini. Herman will teach how to make ulu. So it's kind of just like a blend of different types of art in our culture. So our students get to get their feet wet and learn about like the different styles and, how to make like simple things.
It's almost like a communal way of teaching too. Like there's not one teacher, it's everyone teaching everyone about something that they specialize in. That's cool. And that kind of seems traditional too, in a way, it's not traditional in the educational system, traditional education system, but like traditional in our culture. That's cool.
I think it helps everyone, or students that don't know their place yet, kind of figure it out because they're getting a little bit of experience in this or that, and then this other thing, and it's all so different. Then they find what they're good at, and I don't know. I think it's like a little push, a little motivator to be like, you're really good at that. Just keep going. Yeah. Keep building that skill.
And that can be, such a big part of an Iñupiaq person's identity is just finding something valuable to add to, not just for yourself, but for the community as well. I can see how, many people could probably feel lost or, they don't know what they want to do, and maybe they're not a 9-to-5 working person, if that's not the life that's for them, but maybe if they find their way in another form, like you guys are saying, like see if they find out that they're actually super good at carving ivory or like making ulus or something, then that could be really enlightening and bring some substance to their life, really. That's really cool. What can somebody who graduates with the Iñupiaq Studies degree, what can they do?
So a lot of our graduates have moved on to become Iñupiaq teachers at the school district. We've had some people who go to work at IHLC, the Iñupiat Heritage Language and Culture Center. There's also students who graduated and started their own business. Like they sew for a living. They took what they learned and they, that was their passion. And so they decided to create a business. I think also some students who are not really in the program, but, they just want to get their feet wet. They just want to learn how. And so on the side, they make things and they sell things, for money. So I think those are some of the things that people can do with the Iñupiaq Studies degree.
Do you guys kind of know about the beginning of Iḻisaġvik and, what the main goal of, creating a local tribal college was? I know it's a little before your time.
So going back to our first mayor, so Evan Hobson, he really wanted to have an Iñupiaq university or like, Iñupiaq school where our students learn, the ways of being Iñupiaq, doing Iñupiaq things, and, to have a school in each of the communities. Well, that's how like the school district, we have schools in each village. But for Iḻisaġvik, this was kind of his vision as well, to have an Iñupiaq unapologetically Iñupiaq place where our students can learn these types of things. But it kind of, I think, evolved throughout its history.
Well, because we used to have to get sent out for school, like our, whose age, maybe our older parents' age or grandparents' age. They used to have to go to boarding school down south.
I think it might also be just having somewhere for people from the outlying villages to come. So they don't have to go so far. They don't have to go to this community that is a different type of culture. They don't have to go through that culture shock. They can just come here and it'll still be an Iñupiaq community. Something familiar for them to surround themselves with.
Would you guys say that was an issue or a problem? Was that maybe folks from the villages struggled, or?
I think just from hearing other people talking about it, and also from seeing it myself, people attempt to leave to go to bigger cities like Fairbanks. Fairbanks isn't even that big considering like lower 48 size cities. And like even that can be overwhelming and too much. And then they come back without, I don't want to say without giving it a real chance, but with like, it's just too much to handle. It's too different. And they miss everything about the culture of just being home.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I went to school in Arizona from here, from Barrow, and not from an outlying village, smaller village. And I struggled a bit just to be around people that would never understand where I came from, where we come from. It was really hard to explain myself over and over and over and over again until I get to the point where I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Like, don't ask me. Like, I just want to be a normal person, and then to deal with like the hate. Like, people didn't understand our whaling, hunting. They were appalled by, our lifestyle here, but to them, it was just like, oh, food, like compartmentalize that to, it's just what she eats or whatever. But to us, like, that's our, it's a huge part of our life. It's like part of our social structure, it's all holistic. It's all intrinsic. It's all connecting. And I would take it so offensively. And I was wondering why. And, I'm going through all of these things, trying to process all of it, while I'm away. But I could see why I was probably this close to coming back and just giving up and like, I don't want to do this anymore. But yeah, I could see even just coming from Barrow to another place, how hard it could be for somebody, because it was hard for me.
There were definitely a few times where, because we went together, that we would just reminisce about home. And then I think even once mid-semester, we made a last-minute decision to go home for the weekend, and we just left. Just like, bye, Fairbanks. Yeah. But it was so nice to be home and just see our family, see our friends, be back in the cold winter.
Yeah. I think a lot of students also, when you're in your home community or you have these connections with people, they could be your relative. And so, if you introduce yourself to them, they're like, oh, we're you're my auntie or you're my niece. And, they have that connection to the student. And so, when they go to let's say Fairbanks, they don't have that type of connection. And so I think not having somebody to connect with, because I think, a lot of times we're just trying to connect with people, like trying to find, similarities or, a way to connect with them somehow. Mm-hmm. And, our students, or I guess some students, they don't have that connection there. And then we also have students who go hunting. And so, coming here, they're able to go hunting, the same way if they live in Wainwright or Utqiaġvik, they can come here and still go hunting. And for a cultural hour, one year we had our students go help with the successful whale. And so they were hookers. Cool. So they were, helping pull the whale meat, how they cut and stuff. And so they got that experience, and whereas they wouldn't get that experience like in Fairbanks or Anchorage. So having that cultural connection, people connection, and, being able to do the things that we do here.
Yeah. Still participate in a, seasonal lifestyle too, right? And you were talking about having connections with people. I remember I'm not super religious, and I wasn't in college, but I would go to church because it felt like more of a small community inside a church, because there's akas and appas there, there's little kids, little babies. And when you're on campus, like there's just students, that's your community. And it's like, it's such a drastic change to just be in like a sea of people the same age as you, even coming from a small school, we didn't even have that many kids, but like, yeah, university was so weird in that way. And then it's just like a drastic change when you go into like a church and you're around real families, they're together, celebrating together or whatever, like hanging out. And so I would seek solace like in the church just to be around normal families. How is traditional knowledge, like we were talking about traditional approaches, how you're teaching a class, but you're not really teaching it. It's everyone teaching each other. How is that used in the classroom? Traditional knowledge or traditional approaches?
When we invite guest speakers to come in and teach, let's say an elder, they're not wanting to teach, a whole semester long, 3 hours per week type of class. But I think having the system where, it's like a workshop where we invite them to teach their knowledge, their skills, share some words of wisdom. I think that's one approach, traditional approach to education. We do a lot of cutting Iñupiaq, native food. I think, our whole program is just traditional. Like that's all that we do, whether it's the food, the sewing, the language, the storytelling, arts and crafts, hands-on things. So it's very hands-on. There you go. Like, they get to, hold something, cut something, sew something. They get to use their hands as opposed to, sitting in a classroom, looking at a screen the whole 3 hours a week. So it's, they get to do stuff. That's how we learn. We're very visual, very hands-on. And so that's our approach.
Yeah, Niayuq was talking about that at the Bark, about how Iñupiaq people don't just learn by sitting in a classroom, just in front of a presentation type of thing and just listening for however many hours. What we do is we're out there doing, and we're watching and listening, mentally preparing for when you're going to be asked to cut up the tutu next time, or when you're going to be asked to, steer the boat or something like that. So that makes a lot of sense in learning styles with Iñupiaq, and then, in the Western educational system, it kind of makes you realize that maybe we're doing it all wrong, not you guys, but like at, even in school, like elementary school, middle school, like what if we could indigenize the whole thing, then maybe we might have more graduation rates or less dropout rate, or it's a little philosophical, but what do you think, Katie? What do you think about the use of traditional knowledge or traditional approaches here at Iḻisaġvik?
I think it's still being explored. Like we're learning how to bring our traditional knowledge and our learning styles into the education system, and that it's improving, but it also needs to continue improving so that, just like you said, it'll be more focused on us and our people specifically, like tailored to the way that we originally learned things. And I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, no.
I think our faculty members are still, it's like a work in progress. So they're coming to us for like, how do we indigenize this lesson, or how do we fix this lesson so that it's more relevant? instead of like, drafts or, things like that, just adapting the curriculum to our culture.